श्रीभगवानुवाच लोके अस्मिन् द्विविधा निष्ठा पुरा प्रोक्ता मया नघ ज्ञानयोगेन साङ्ख्यानां कर्मयोगेन योगिनाम् न कर्मणां नारम्भान् नैष्कर्म्यं पुरुषोऽश्नुते न च संन्यसनादेव सिद्धिं समधिगच्छति न हि कश्चित् क्षणमपि जातु तिष्ठत्य कर्मकृत् कार्यते ह्यवशः कर्म सर्वः प्रकृतिजैर्गुणैः. Now the shlok 6 that we are going to learn and by heart in this week. Karmendriyani sanyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyacharasa uchyate. So in the first line, there is it seems like there is the ya sound is said twice over because of the ya in the end of sanyam, and then there is another ya. So karmendriyani sanyamya ya aste manasasmaran. Okay.
Okay. So last time we stopped at shloka number 11. So this time we're doing shloka number 12.
Yeah.
So you want to do a quick back
Summary. Yes.
summary?
I think by now it is quite clear to all of us that we cannot escape from action. We cannot exist for even a moment without the action. And uh, and these actions will always be done. Even if we don't want to perform an action, then also the actions will be done under the precedency of three gunas of nature in a compulsive manner. So we don't have an option there. We have also heard Lord say that just restraining one's own senses without control over the mind is hypocrisy. I'm going to mute here. So we've also heard Lord say that there is that just restraining your own senses from the sense objects without having a complete control over your mind is hypocrisy, right? So Lord has stipulated that if you have done an action at your mind level, that means the action is already done. You have already accumulated prarabdha. So if you've said something negative to somebody in your mind, but you've not voiced it out, that doesn't mean that the action has not happened, right? And so now that this is already established, so it becomes very important that we must channelize or discipline our mind. That's the most important thing, and not just restraining actions forcefully from doing an action, right? It is at the mind level that we need to work. So now that this has been established, then what are the kinds of actions that we need to do? So Lord says that there are three different types of actions. You can do forbidden actions, but then they will cause distress eventually. You can do vain actions, but then we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And the third is that you can do an action which entails a duty. For that, you will definitely receive a positive outcome. So given, your Vyavasaitmika Buddhi, it only makes sense that we use these resources that we have, the energy, the time, to do only those actions that are considered to be our essential duty and nothing else. And he also said that on top of all of these reasons, actions are very important for mere sustenance. You cannot sustain your body without doing actions. So action is paramount, it is important, it is inescapable. So then how should we do these actions so that the associated compulsive obligations that get created with it, the prarabdha that gets created with it, how can we escape that? Right? That's a natural question. In answer to that, Lord gave us the concept of yajna, and he explained it to us quite beautifully through the simile of a havan. And he explained how if we do the actions through you with the yajna bhav, and as an action that action becomes a yajna, then all prarabdha get either the new prarabdha doesn't get created. In fact, old prarabdha also gets extinguished. Okay. So he's basically given us certain aspects of like how do we determine whether an action is a yajna or not, right? um, and he also told us a very important thing, that yajna is equivalent to kamdhenu. So it's a very, very powerful thing that he's given us in our lives. Kamdhenu is that legendary cow that becomes the fulfiller of all wishes and all requirements. So he's told us that if we do everything with the yajna bhav, it will lead to fulfillment of all actions, and it will lead to a fulfillment of all our desires too. How does that happen? So he explained to us how does that happen is it is done because of the way the world has been created. We are all created in the image of God, right? Our capital S self is nothing but Him, a part of Him inside of us. So we are at the core God Himself. And so we are happiest when we go back to our roots, to our origin. The entire universe is created in the image of Him. So His characteristics are shown everywhere in the world. So, as an example, the universe, when He created, He started with Tyag Buddhi. He gave up, He sacrificed His singularity and the peace that comes with singularity when He said, Eko Ham Bahusyami. Similarly, the rest of the universe also acts with Tyag Buddhi. Whether we look at the sun, the moon, any divine power, and there are tons of divine powers. What are divine powers? These are basically powers from the Lord, parts of His power that work through and help in moving in the functioning of the physical world, the natural world, the social world that we live in. Every one of these is run by His divine power, one or the other divine power. And all these divine powers act in a similar manner as He does, starting from Tyag Buddhi, doing everything with the Yajna Bhav, and doing it only for Lokhit without any attachment to the end results. And it doesn't matter what the other person does or doesn't do. So, sun will continue to shine and give its warmth and energy to all of us, irrespective of how we harness that energy, how we use that energy, what results get created with that energy. He's completely unattached to all of that. It doesn't matter whether you like him, you don't like him. It doesn't matter whether you thank him, you don't thank him. It doesn't matter. He's not concerned with any of that. His job is to rise every day, give his warmth and light to this world, and then keep doing this duty day on day, every single day. Similarly, with other divine powers that rule, the wind god or the Jal god or every other divine power that works through this world, right? So, if we act in the same manner as the rest of the world, and if we act in the same manner through that yajna bhav, we come in line with the rest of the world. We come in line with the universal principles. And once we become aligned with the universal principles, the entire universe starts to act. And when the rest of the world starts to act in our benefit, essentially, that's how it becomes a Kamdhenu. It becomes the giver of all gifts, all desires, everything that we need. This is why God says, Yoga Kshevam Vahamyaham. I will take care of all your needs. I will be the giver, and I will also be the one who will sustain everything that you need once you've got them. So you don't have to worry about acquiring. Don't worry about this acquisition or that acquisition. Ye kahan se aayega? Where will I get resources for this or that? If what you are trying to do is in line with universal principles, resources will materialize. Trust that. Resources will materialize no matter what. और वो कहाँ से आएंगे you don't know. The universe will create that around you. Similarly, if you have acquired something, say now you've acquired a car, a house, a job, as long as you continue to behave and use those material resources with the yajna bhav for the lokhit, and not try and just hoard, then the the shame of it, the preservance of that for you will also continue by Lord. You don't have to worry, what if I lose this? It doesn't matter. Even if you lose it, then there must be a shray for you. If you lose it, you'll likely get a better thing out of it. There's there's God paving way for something better for you in your life. Okay. So once we have gone through this, there's a very natural question that comes in. And the natural question then is, what if I'm doing all the actions as part of the system with Yagya Bhav and I'm creating all this value, but there's another person who all he's doing is take from the system. For example, I am doing all the hard work for the benefit of my company, but there's another person, all he's doing is playing politics. And in the process, the benefit that I had to get that promotion, but someone else got it because I wasn't doing politics. I was doing work with my Yagya Bhav, but someone else got the benefit. What if I'm the one who is consuming responsibility, not harming the environment, but there's someone else who is consuming recklessly, doesn't really care, wasting water, wasting electricity, wasting all resources, throwing plastic, right? What happens to that? And how will the system sustain? Am I just being naive here and I'm constantly just giving and someone else, all he's doing is taking? So that question is answered in the very next shloka that we read. Anita, will you read with me?
Yes.
Okay.
The connection.
So you'll start with the connection after Shlok 11, please.
About
Yeah, just read the connection after Shlok 11. Now the Lord tells.
can you guys not hear me?
Now we can. Yes.
Now we can.
Now the Lord tells about the benefits occurring from the strengthening of the gods.
Ishthan bhogan hi vo deva
Ishtan Bogan hi Vede Vo Deva
dasyante yajna bhavitaha
Dasyante Yajna Vitaha
ter dattan pradayebhyo
Tairdattan Pratayagyo
yo bhunte stena eva saha
Yo Punte Satena Yeva Saha
yo bhunte stena eva saha.
Yo Bhunte Satena Yeva Saha.
Yeah. So the word meaning ishtha is isht, desired. Bhog is consumption. He, निश्चय ही, definitely. वो, you people. देव, gods. दास्यन्ते, देते रहेंगे, will keep giving. यज्ञ is यज्ञ. Bhavita, strengthened by. So yajna bhavita is strengthened by yajna. Ter, te refers to उन देवताओं के द्वारा, by those gods. Dattan, given, provided by. Praday, without contributing. Apraday, yeah, this is apraday. Apraday is without contributing. So when you are taking all by himself in a selfish manner. Yo, they, bhungte, consume, stain, thief, eva saha, ev, certainly, saha, that person. So we'll understand more once we read the italics.
The god nourished by yajnas will provide you the object cherished by you. One who is out only to enjoy the objects without offering to the gods is certainly a thief.
So there are two parts of this shloka, right? The first line and the second line. So the first line very clearly says that gods nourished by your yagyas will provide you the objects that you desire. And this is that quote that we were struggling to come up with last time, but we read it out, right? Which is, if you do as you wish, then he will do as he wishes. But if you do as he wishes, then he will do as you wish. So if we become an instrument for his purpose, then everything that we need as part of our journey to get to him will materialize in front of us. But if we focus on accumulating and acquiring our own desires and wishes, then as a consequence of that, we will face prana. We will face an extended lifetime. We will come back in this form and face the same struggle.
And again, there is nothing wrong with desires and wishes. The problem comes when the desires and wishes become an end in themselves. You just want that big house to be able to enjoy it. You just want to acquire wealth to hoard it in your bank. We all know money has no purpose when it's just sitting in a bank account, right? So, desires and wishes to what end becomes a question. You can't just stop there. You have to move forward. The energy that comes to you in whatever form must continue to flow ahead.
Yeah. So it's also the example I had given, I think, last class as well, is and what Tuhina mentioned, right? Everything created in this world, and that's I think shloka number 14 right now that will come up, is created with the yagya bhav.
Hmm.
So while it is our natural state to actually be in that yagya bhav, because that's when we get connected with nature. So for all those who were not there last class, we talked about how um, the sun comes up every morning, it powers the earth with heat and light, and it goes back to sleep. But just powering the earth through heat and light, it creates an opportunity for water to evaporate and form clouds. And the power of the wind, because of gravitational force, move those clouds to lands and other places. And that water then starts nourishing seed and bacteria life in soil, which then results in food, which results in all of our movements, right? And as long as, and each act done by each divine source as done with the yagya bhav, the sun just comes up, does its duty, and goes back. The cloud comes on, does their duty, and it rains wherever it has to rain. The winds come in, they do their duty, and they take nothing else in return. Right? So there is this beautiful balance of yagya that is there in our everywhere around us if we see it. And we just have to plug back into it. And I was running every morning, go for a run, and there was this place that I'm running now, which is it's like a stretch next to a HDB. So HDB is like local housing in Singapore. And anyone who's familiar with it, they know that next to the HDBs there are these private gardens. So like these cages that are there, and a person can go in and they can plant vegetation, fruits, flowers, have pots and all sorts of things. And from what I understand, it's private. So like somebody owns it and there's a lock and a key. And there are about 40 of those that I run along. And every morning when I run along, I, I look at each cage and the garden inside, and you can see some people have just taken it and done nothing with it. Some people have taken it and their tools are all over the place and it's a mess, and there are like 4 5 plants or whatever, but it's not consistently maintained. Some places there are lots of plants, but half of them are dying, they're not sprouting as well, and you can make out that. But then there are some of those that you cross when you run, they're just like picture perfect. There are just like rows of pots of plants, whether it's vegetables, whether it's flowers. You can't even see their tools. It's in a box that is locked up or whatever it is. And on the face of it, at the action level, you can just compare and say, a good job, bad job, good job, bad job. But if you actually take look at the bhav level, the person that is working in that greenhouse, which is so well maintained, he would have so much reverence for the plants, right? He's has so much love that he's giving back to the plant in a way that creates an environment for it to grow fruit or grow flowers. And he's even the empty space in that greenhouse, he's well maintained it, maybe because he's looking for future plants to come up. But that all action comes from that bhav of care, of reverence that is there, right? And you can see when a person interacts with nature that way, it gives back plentyfold. It gives back beauty, it gives back food, it gives us flowers, it gives us fragrance, it gives us sight, right? And that was just a very small example I'm seeing every morning. And I'm just like, yeah, if we are able to work with that yagya, then nature will respond back because that's how nature works. And as long as we are body, we are nature, we are part of, we're made from earth. Food from earth goes in our body and makes us alive or keeps us alive, right? So the yagya element then becomes so important for us to be part of this beauty rather than the element of taking away, right? So that's the first part of the shloka. If you might continue reading, please.
The benefits occurring from strengthening of guards. When duties are performed assiduously and in accordance with prescribed procedures, they accumulate in strengthening the gods. The gods, satisfied by the offering of such dedicated duties, provide the cherished objects unasked. One who does not offer one's duty but only cherishes the object is declared by the Lord to be a thief.
Now,
Um,
this last line, right? I mean, I was thinking about this, um, and it's, I think, a very far-fetched example, but I'll share it nonetheless, right? Who's created this world? Is it us? No, certainly not mankind, because it's been there well before apples were there, well before mankind was there. We don't own the apples, we don't own the trees, we don't own any of this. We act as if we own it, right? We act as if, oh, this tree is my tree, nobody else can take from it, right? So we act as if we own the entire planet. I bought a piece of land, now that is mine. That ownership mentality is there in mankind, that I own it. So the example is this, that imagine if you go to somebody else's house and you're visiting, that person's home or not home is immaterial. And you start taking from there, you start sitting on their sofa, you start taking food from their fridge, you start taking something else from their cupboard, wearing their clothes. What will you be? And you'll be considered, this is mine. No, no, this t-shirt is mine now because I've taken it from the cupboard and I've worn it. So now this t-shirt is mine. Okay, yeah, the refrigerator is not mine, but here, I've taken an apple, I've taken this, this is now mine. On the face of it, from a law perspective, you'll be considered a thief because you're not recognizing the owner. Similarly, in the world, it's so easy to go and say, this is mine, that is mine, I've paid, so I deserve it. But in reality, the owner is somebody else altogether. If you don't take a moment, that word that I used earlier, reverence, right? That yagya feeling of reverence, that nahi, the eventual ownership is somebody else. Bhagwanji feels exactly the same way. And that's why he's using such a strong word as a thief, because he's trying to wake us up that as that you are essentially being a robber because you don't realize who the eventual owner is. You don't own anything. The owner is somebody else. Acknowledge the owner, right?
We have
And
also like we know it intuitively. We have heard this said so many times, right? Ki khali haath aaye hain, khali haath jayenge, right? We come empty handed, we go empty handed. Everything remains in this world. So then what do we really have? What ownership do we have? On what basis can we claim ownership to anything material in this world? It is just being given to us as a nominee holder for some time. You have this life, he has given us some resources, go ahead, use it for your own uddhar. Use these resources to come back to me. It's like, being sent into a game. You've been given certain things and said, okay, now use this intelligently to come back out of the game. And what do we do instead? We forget what is the end goal, and all we are doing is acquire, 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 acquire more, which is actually like a complete waste of that thing. You've lost the game, obviously, because you've not reached your end goal. And in the process, you've created so much prarabdha.
the confusion also stems because as society, as mankind, we celebrate the taker mentality. And that's where the confusion comes. We celebrate the people who take the most. Are what a deal you struck. Are you were able to extract more, a higher price from the client. Great. Right? So that taker mentality is stemmed in every element of our working and thinking. But that needs to change.
But you know what? Like, it's also important to note how that this type of a taker mentality that is celebrated, if you actually go higher up, you will realize that less and less of this mentality works. The bigger the game you play, the lesser the taker mentality works. So, for example, a taker mentality may work great at a sales level. Okay, and we all know that that works only one time. if you have if you have a transactional relationship, which is mostly the case in investment banking, and M&A is a one time transaction. A company doesn't IPO again and again, right? So in that world, everything is about a transaction. Broker dealer, any of those things is a transaction. It's a one time transaction. And that is why the people in that industry, yeah, they may end up making money or whatever, and they celebrate these type of little wins, that you stuffed the client and you made more money. But that is also a place where no good relationships really exist. Any relationship where you value the client over a period of time, the difference between customer, a one time transactional customer, versus a client where you're making sure that there's give and take to have a good relationship over a period of time. The way they act and the way the value that gets created is multifold. It's not a win lose mentality any longer. It's a win win mentality that creates long term relationships. Similarly, so at this small level, these things may work. But like when you talk of diplomats, the best of the diplomats, the best of the negotiators. So if you're negotiating a small deal versus when you're negotiating at a country level, if you talk to those people, you will realize that their mentality is extremely different. The statesmen, who we consider statesmen in hindsight, the people who have created lasting change that has lasted over generations, those people never had a taker mentality. If you read their history, if you read their philosophy, you will realize that they had the mentality of creating a win win situation. They came into it not from a perspective of, I am a negotiator and I am going to do something, and there is an ego involved that I am doing this and I am super smart. No, they come into it with a yagya bhav. We are doing something that is greater than ourselves. With what we are creating here is a conversation that will impact hundreds of lives. So I have great responsibility that I must bear with a lot of sense of reverence. And I must do what is good for hundreds and millions of people. When they go in with that mentality, they are thinking both sides. The best deals get crafted when both sides have that statesman like conversation, and that creates long term impact. So, even in our own lives, we can see these examples of what lasts and what doesn't last. And transient taker mentality does not create lasting structures in this world.
Continue reading, Anita.
Harm from weakening of gods. It is commonly seen that if the potential of irrigation, power, etc., are used according to prescribed procedures and their duties are withheld, then these potential increase. But unauthorized tapping of power or diversion of channels or non-payment of dues weakens the potential, causing great hardship to the society. It is easy to imagine the harm occurring from tampering of such human and social systems. It is more so when the divine system are tampered with.
So this is, in a way, he's built the entire uh, the downward slide slope, right? If you operate from that mentality where you cherish only objects, he's calling you a thief because you don't recognize the real owner. Continuous or continual action with that bhav will lead you to always take more from the system, from the divine powers. And as long as you're getting, you're okay. But there will come a point in time where when the system will become weaker, and when the system becomes weaker, it affects everyone, right? Including the person who took it. And we can see that in today's example, right? Like there is a multiple countries, multiple systems have failed and collapsed. And if you look back, yeah, a lot of people are thinking still at an individual level, my benefit, rather than what we need to do to actually come out of the situation. So he's basically just built a downward slide that operating at uh, a taker mentality of being a thief will lead you to a point where you will potentially break the divine system, or weaken it, and then we'll have to face the consequences of that. And a lot of people say that's how Kalyug came about. Also, we're right now in Kalyug, right? But that's a different conversation.
I quickly have one point, right? Like exactly around what you were saying. Number of cyclones, number of floodings that we had never seen before in India, at least, right? And even though the spiritual aspects are raising, people are doing it whatever personal benefits or something like that, right? It is not really for overall social welfare. Others should also live better way, kind of thing. Without that kind of a joint effort, like to please, for example, the rain god, we will have to plant more trees, or make sure earth is protected there, it is not losing water. But it cannot be done by one person or a set of similar mind of persons, right? Um, is there any reference point that you have seen forward also,
So
joint efforts, and try to resolve such kind of a situation? I mean, this could be offline, but I'm just trying to understand this kind of a case.
So we'll talk. So the entire chapter will talk a lot more about this. And one of the concepts, I don't know if we've introduced it formally yet or not, but it's called Lok Sangra, which is every person who is on this journey. The You obviously do it with the yagya bhav, but every act that you do it to strengthen the system, benefit of others. And that is a mental shift at a bhav level as well as at a purpose level of what you're doing, right? So I'll give you an example for this. uh, Doctors, a doctor, and we know private hospitals can easily operate for profit. And then we know they operate for profit. They will give you 5 extra tests. They will prescribe you 4 different medicines. When you go to the chemist to buy it, the doctor gets a cut that he sent me more business. All of this is done with the intent of maximizing or optimizing profit for various people in the supply chain. They don't really care about the person. But that same act is very easy for us to visualize. How, if you had the right purpose and you had the right bhav, how much of the system you strengthen, right? So that's just an example, but we'll talk a lot more about Lok Sangra and how we should be focused on driving purpose and driving our action in a way that benefits the entire system. And that happens at a thought level and then an action level as well.
Uh, and to more directly address the question, Vijay, it is actually so 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 what happens in these kind of conversations is that the first thought is that, oh, this something is a very big issue, right? It's a very big issue to like handle climate, for example. There's nothing that I can do at a personal level that will make any difference, and then it becomes somebody else's problem. Everybody's problem is nobody's problem, right? Nobody solves that problem if it is everybody's problem. But if it becomes more specific, then you have accountability, and then that person, when there is an accountability, that person starts to do something about it, and that's the only way anything gets done. Now, in that context, agreed that this world, the some of the problems may be too large. It may seem like I cannot make a very big difference at my own personal level, but you would be surprised with how much power we have within ourselves and how badly we underestimate ourselves. We are gods, right? The capital S inside of us is God himself. You've heard of the word hologram, right? Hologram is basically what? In the tiniest of the element of that hologram, the entire world sits.
Image, the
The
image of the
image of the
hologram.
world, the image of the whole is in every single part. We are holograms. We are holograms of this entire world. That is why, as is inside, is outside. That is why our Rishi Munis have always said, work on your inside, the outside will take care of itself. Which, when you think more about it, you will realize that our actions, even if they seem very, very small and insignificant, have an outsized impact on the world outside. If it is something small at a personal level of saying, I want to make sure that I am strengthening the gods, and I just start at my own personal level and I change my consumption pattern that way. For example, it could be something small like, while brushing my teeth, I make sure that the water tap is closed. You know, the water I use for my bath or my shower or washing clothes or utensils, or whether it is the food that we order in the restaurant. It seems quite easy, right, to waste food that we order in the restaurants, and it all goes to the bin. And most of the time people will just say, oh, why are you ordering less? We can afford it. We've come out to eat, we might as well, I want to try 6 dishes. These are very taker mentality thought process. You're ordering less not because you cannot afford it, you're ordering less because you don't want to waste food. Be more mindful of what you're eating, right? So when you start doing these small small things, you at your own level, I will not use plastic, or I will reduce my consumption of plastic. I'll be more mindful of throwing things in the bin. Very easy to dump everything in one place. Can I try and segregate what is recyclable, what is not, right? It at my own level, when I get to that level of bhav, trust me, the effect you create on people around you and in your own environment has a massive ripple effect, whether you see it or not. And over a period of time, as with anything else, right, it doesn't happen on day one, but over a period of time, there is a massive impact you will create. The first impact you start to create is within your own family. You behave in a certain manner consistently, it's very difficult for people around you to not behave, at least in front of you, in a certain different manner compared to who they are being in the other companies. The impact you will have on your children, on your immediate families, and through them, you will have an impact on the rest of the world. So don't underestimate what you can do as a person in your own personal capacity. And you do not have to think about that, you don't have to start, unless, of course, you are inspired to do so. You don't have to start a cleanliness drive at a national level. Just do it at your home level. Because remember, it's a hologram. If you and the smallest part of you is a hologram of the rest of the world, in a larger way, your home is a hologram of rest of the society.
And every just to add on to this, right? Like every change has always started at that level. It's been one individual who's consistently, not intensely, consistently doing the same thing over and over again. And if Bhagwanji wishes that person to go in that direction, the circumstance takes him there. And he'll have greater opportunity of recognition, greater opportunity of people reaching out to him for help. And the next thing you know, that's how you become experts around all of these things, right? And yeah, I mean, there are lots of examples, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah,
What Abhinav said, right? The important word is so distinction between consistency and intensity. Consistency is more important than intensity. One day you go and exercise for 5 hours in a gym is not as good as doing 30 minutes over 10 days. Okay, consistency is more important. One day, one Sunday, we sit down and we do 2 hours of Gita lesson versus 10 minutes every single day. Those 10 minutes every single day will yield better benefit than one large intense moment. One day we go out and we do, a cleanliness exercise on the beach and we feel good about it. It will not create a lasting impact as an everyday small thought process of like consuming less plastic, being more mindful of where we throw our garbage, etc. will have. So consistency every time over intensity every time.
got it. Thank you.
um
The same thing, sorry, not to harp on this, but it's very similar to the Gita journey you are going through right now. You are making this commitment, you're showing up every Saturday, or sorry, Sunday. You are taking time away from your loved ones. Some of your family members are part of it, some of your family members are not part of it. But every one of you is part of the journey. And as you go through this evolution and journey, you're carrying your family members along. As long as you focus on implementing the principles on yourself, there is no way your family members will not be touched and moved. Because when they face, or when you as a family face a challenge and a struggle and a problem, which is going to come in all our lives because we're part of Sansar, you will have a different perspective and you will be able to be equanimous, to tap into your correct bhav, your correct purpose, while others will be flustered, they will be emotional, they will be panicky, because you're going through a journey where you're attaching yourself to the real. And just like as long as you do this consistently, watch around you, your whole world will change. I think somebody else was saying, right? There are certain friends I don't like to hang out with them anymore because they talk other things and more spiritually inclined. All of this will happen now, and your circumstances will change. So
And
let's.
yeah, taking it back to that first question, right? So we don't have to worry about what others are doing. Is the other person a taker or a giver? You don't have to worry about him. God will take care of him. The world's, the laws of the nature will take care of him. So whatever he's doing, if he's being a taker, he has already been branded a thief. So what will happen to him, the product he's creating, the results he will create may not even be apparent to you. Okay, sometimes things don't come back in the same way. I am an acquisitor of wealth. I'm hurting other people to like, trample over other people to get my own money and all. The results he creates may not be in the area of wealth. He may continue to be a very wealthy person, but his prarabdha may come to bite him in a different manner altogether, which you may or may not be able to see. So while you see other people's stories at the outset, you don't know what else is going on. So there is no point in judging in a positive way or negative way. Never judge and never like, why is he behaving in this manner? We only have to worry about ourselves. Is my action consistent with Yagya Bhav? If it is, then that itself is a reward. That's all that I need to care about. After that, the results that come, whether that promotion came to me or did not come to me, and somebody else played politics and that promotion went to him, one, prasad buddhi. It did not come to me. Now it happened because of a past prarabdha. Acha hai. Good. Thank you, God. My prarabdha got killed in such a simple fashion. Just one promotion only. No, I'll get another promotion next year. Thank you so much for clearing my prarabdha. Instead, if I get upset and angry, there you go. I've created yet another prarabdha that I have to live through. God knows in what fashion, right? And everything you give out to this world, it is not just a reflector. It is not just a mirror. This world is not a mirror. It's a magnifier. Whatever you give out in this world, it will come back to you many-fold, 5 times, 10 times. So sometimes you will end up seeing that, I did small effort, the return of it was so outsized, but that's always how it is going to be. You do one good deed, there are 10 good deeds that will come back to you. So always remember that the world is a magnifier and we are all a hologram. So we only need to work on ourselves to create outsized value in this world. But again, consistent over a period of time and not expect sudden results with like 1 or 2 days of activity. So we'll read the connection. Gautam, would you like to read?
Yep. The Lord now speaks about persons who are allowed to only enjoy the gain flowing from their actions, as distinct from those who carry out their duties dedicatedly.
Yajna Shishtashana Santo.
Yajna Shishta Na Santo.
Yeah. Yajna
Yajna
Shishta
Shishta
Shina
China
Santo.
Santo. Okay.
Mutyante Sarva Kilbishe
Mukyante Sarva Kilbishe
Bhunjate Te Twagham Papa
Bhunjate Tve Tvagam Papa
Ye Pachantyatma Karanat.
Ye Pachantyatma Karana.
Very well. So Yajna is Yajna, Shisht, Shesh, Bacha Hua, whatever is remaining, the remnants. Shishtashana. Santo is Shresht Purush, superior people, sages. Muchyante, liberated. Sarv, all. Kilbishe, from all sins. Bhunjate, eat or eating. Te, those people. Twagham. Agham is actually pap, sin. Papa is papi log, those sinful people. Pachantyatma karanat. Pachantyat is to cook. Atma karanat, only for their own selves, to nourish only their own bodies. Okay? Three.
The importance of remnant of offerings.
Can you read the Gautam, can you read the italics as well, please?
Sorry. Partaking of what remains after rendering to God through yajna, what is due to them. A person is freed of all sin, but selfish persons who only cook for themselves have to eat nothing but sin.
Okay. So the word that is very important here is yagyashisht. Yagyashisht means that what remains after performing your yagya, after all the offerings have been made. So yagyashisht, you do your duty, you give what has to be given to everyone. Whatever is remaining in the end is what you eat. Very, very important. Prasad. We always say prasad, right? We go to mandir, we get prasad. What is prasad? After puja has been done, the yagya has been completed, food has been made, and then it is distributed to everyone. So if you were doing puja in your house, what would you do? You would ensure that everyone gets prasad first, and then you consume. You're not the first person to consume prasad, right? So, Yagya Shisht is that concept. Now bring it into everyday activity. So, if you think about your own mothers, when they are cooking food in the kitchen, you would always notice that they serve food to everyone else first and then they eat. Mothers are always the last to eat after they've made sure that everyone's eaten their food, right? We have over a period of time put it as a part of,
Culture.
feminism and everything, and started screaming, why should moms eat in the end? And we've come down, made it, and of course it has in certain cases been a part of, putting women down type of a thing. But actually at Yagya Bhav, where did it start? It started with whatever you are doing, you feed first to others and then you consume. The money that we earn is used for others' betterment first. Your dad earns the money, he first sees that everything in the house is done properly. Everyone else gets their things first. Your children, their education, their clothes, their shoes, they get bought first before you consume, right? So in our families, we have seen Yagyashisht through our parents in a very strong manner. Similarly, in the office or in your relationships, what are you taking from each relationship versus what you're giving? First, give. And after it has been consumed, everyone has taken what they need to. Whatever is remaining, if you consume that, it will nourish you. It will, that prasad, that becomes your prasad of your yagya. It's a very purified offering. If you consume that, whatever be that thing, whether it is a promotion you've got, the salary you've got, the bonus you've got, the car that you've received, when you consume anything material in this world, the first thing is the sukshma, the subtle. How are you consuming it at a subtle level? If you're consuming it as prasad, first of all, prasad is eaten in small quantities, right? We don't eat a plate full of prasad. Prasad is small amounts. So that itself restricts the amount that you need only to the extent that you need, right? So sukshma bhav, at the subtle level, how you're consuming. And then at the gross level, whatever you're consuming, it becomes prasad. Consuming it, using it in this world will never accrue you any prarabdha or any sin.
So the best example to think of here, and slightly, I don't intend to get into a debate about this, but I will share it just from this perspective. Some of these companies, every now and then, every 6 months, we will read a really outrageous article. People are really angry that the CEO has a personal package of
Yeah.
$400 million, but the company is making a loss. Or in the financial crisis where billions of dollars were lost and people were suffering and jobless, you had these executives who gave themselves 550, 60, $100 million bonuses. And there was outrage against it, right? And that's why there's such a bad feeling everybody has on a basis with banks and financial institutions, because we know they don't operate from this yagya bhav at all. But they're the biggest companies in the world. If you actually read their history and the founders, the principles which they've built it, and the example that's coming to my mind is Amazon. Right? It is the biggest company in the world. The CEO of the now the chairman, but the former founder and CEO, Jeff Bezos, had a fixed salary of 140 or 150,000 based on whatever company structure there was. And whatever benefits he gave his executive team, he followed the exact same benefits. He's become rich not because of salary from the company. He's become rich because of his equity. Lok Sangrah. He's become rich because he gave back equitably and fairly to a lot of people who've also become rich along the way, but he's strengthened the system. He's done it with the bhav to go strengthen the company, strengthen the system, rather than, hey, how much will I make this year? No, no, I'm the founder CEO. I have to make $200 million. When look at his net worth explode, right? There
And
is
again, it hasn't happened, the
oh,
day one. Like he's gone through a lot of ups and downs, right? And he has lived a uh, very
frugal.
frugal life for a very long time. His entire company has gone through a very frugal, like they still have a very frugal mentality as a company. So if you look at the Amazon principles based on which that company operates even today, they are all based on Gita. And the fact that that company has embraced those principles has allowed it to grow so big and create so much value for everyone in the process, right? In today's pandemic, the amount of like touch points we've had with Amazon in different ways is huge, and that is why they are able to create so much of value for themselves as well in the process. Okay, that's important. And those who do not do it this way, those who do not eat as a yagya shisht, those who are only cooking for themselves, the cooking whatever they are working or whatever the actions that they are doing is only for their own benefit, for their own sustenance, their bodies, their family members, my children, my house, my people who are acting from that perspective, they are only cooking sin. It's a very, very sharp and strong statement by the Lord. And that's another reason, right? We are not here to judge others. They will get taken care of by the nature. Nature has its laws, and nobody in this world can escape the laws of nature. So we only have to worry about ourselves and not about others. And when we act in the yagya with the yagya bhav, and all our actions become a yagya, and we consume yagya shisht, there is no sin that can accrue to us. So this is the way to act in this world that will allow those very actions to not just not create a bondage, but actually become a source of our liberation. This is a very important point to note, that everything in this world, as we have noticed, like every coin we say has two sides to it, right? Everything in this world has two sides to it. There is a positive side and there is a negative side. It depends on us how we use it. Karma can be used for bondage, or karma can be used for liberation. Wealth can be used for good, wealth can be used as a source of ego boost. Every single thing in this world has two sides to it. Sleep can be used as a activity to nourish and to give rest to our body, our senses, which is absolutely essential, or it can lead us towards laziness, tamas. So there is nothing that is absolute good or absolute bad. Whenever we hear ourselves say this is good or this is bad, we should correct ourselves. No, there is nothing good or bad in this world. Everything, it depends on us how we utilize it. So that's another change in our subtle mindset we need to make. Yeah? So we'll read. Gata?
The importance of remnant of offering. In this shloka, the word yagna shishta has been introduced. Virtuous acts sanctioned by scripture and done with the help of mind, senses, and body organs lend strength to different power potentials. For example, God fulfills desire, saints and seers spread the light of knowledge, the spirits of ancestors provide the vehicles of living. By keeping living beings happy, the social organisms run systematically. The fruits of all duties are shared by all of the above powers, and what remains thereafter is called the Yagna Shishta. A person who partakes of such remnants of the offerings is freed of all sins. Others keep the fruits of their actions for themselves, in a way live on the wages of their sins. One who acquires things for one's own enjoyment gets only sins through sinful acts.
We've explained this early.
So Vijay, will you read?
Yeah.
The connection, please.
How the yajna originated and what connection it has with the cycle of creation is now explained by the Lord.
Annat bhavanti bhutani
Annat bhavanti bhutani
parjanyat anna sambhavah
paryanyat anna sambhavah
yagyat bhavati parjanyo
Yagnat bhavati parjanyo.
Yajna karma samudbhavaha.
Yajna karma samud. All living beings come forth from food. Food is produced by rain.
Vijay, I'll just do the word meanings.
Sorry.
Yeah. Annad is grains. So anna is grains, annad is through grains. Bhavanti, happen, are created. Bhutani, all people. Parjanya is rain, but it is not just water that falls. Parjanya means the right kind of rain, the right type of rain that nourishes the crops, because sometimes that can be a cyclone also, or a storm that will hurt the crops. So Parjanya is the right type of nourishing rain. Parjanyat, through rain. Anna, the grains. Sambhava, become possible. Yajnat, through yagya. Bhavati, happens, is created. Parjanyo, rain, the good rain. Yajna is yagya. Karma samudbhava, is created through karma, is created through actions, becomes possible because of actions. We'll read the next one as well, the next shloka, before we read the Karma brahmodbhavam viddhi.
Karma brahmodvam bhavavidhi.
Brahmakshar samudbhavam.
Brahmakshara sama uddhava
Samudbhavam.
samudbhava.
Tasmat sarvagatam brahma.
Tasmat sarvagatam brahma.
Nityam yadne pratishtitam.
Nityam yagni prashishtitam.
So karma is actions. Brahmodbhavam, created by Vedas. Brahma, the word Brahma and Brahma are different. Brahma is the ultimate potential, the ultimate Lord, the unmanifest Lord. And Brahma is used as a word to show the creative power, the creative potential of the Lord. So Brahma is that creative power potential that created the world. But Brahma is the underlying unmanifest Lord behind Brahma. Behind Brahma. Okay, so Brahma and Brahma. Brahmodbhavam, created by the Vedas. Vidhi, no. Brahmakshar samudbhavam. So Brahma Akshar, the Akshar Brahma. Akshar is undestroyable, immutable. So that undestroyable, immutable Brahma created. So karma is created by the Vedas, and Vedas are created by that immutable Lord. Tasmat, hence, Sarvagatam, one that is present everywhere, Sarvavyapi, omnipresent. Brahma, the Lord, Nityam, always, Yadne, Yagya, Pratishtitam, is present in. Okay, so Lord is present in your Yagya.
Now you may read the italics.
All living beings come forth from food. Food is produced by rain. Productivity in rain created by yajna, and yajna is based on action. Actions are regulated by Vedas, and Vedas are mandated from Creator. Hence, Creator ever rests in yajna.
So in this, there are two shlokas here, and they both are trying to highlight the very same thing which I talked about earlier, which is everything in creation around of us. I think we've lost net. Everyone's frozen.
Can you hear us?
No, we've frozen.
Yes.
Open the door. Everyone's frozen.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Abhinav?
Now I can. Now I can. I think our net froze there for a second.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear us now?
Yes.
Okay. So now our bedroom door is open so that the net becomes better, but the consequence of that is you will hear two 5-year-old boys scream every 30 seconds. So apologize. And I just saw one of them is naked, so I didn't know. So, uh, every Sunday Gita class, no, we come for these 2 hours, and we have when we leave this room, we're like we have no idea what we're going to see outside the house. Like right now, I just saw Vedant with a Spider-Man mask on his head, and he's completely naked below. And I'm just like, I have no idea what conversation is going to happen afterwards. But okay, he's living his life, we're living ours. Okay, so in this shloka, he's basically highlighting the essence of what I just talked about earlier, which was everything in nature, right, is created with the yagya bhav. Everything. So when we and we as part, because our bodies are made from earth and soil and nature, the only way to nourish our body is nature, food coming from nature. And we've all heard about concepts like organic and chemicals and this and that and processed food. And after one generation of processed food, we already realize the harmful effects of feeding our body with chemicals and processed food, right? The number of illnesses and diseases that have come up in the last 100 years, like cancer, is a completely eradicable disease that actually stems from lifestyle and processed food, right? So, so we are what we eat, but what we eat, where does it come from? It comes from the nature's act of yagya, the tree's act of yagya to give, the rain and the clouds act of yagya to go nourish the soil for seeds to sprout out. And like I built the chain all the way up to the sun, right? So, and then he highlights, okay, if you still don't think everything is yagya, then he gives another example. The Vedas were written by the gods, right? This was the prescribed actions. He says actions that are regulated by Veda necessarily, if you do it properly, they are you action is performed with the yagya bhav. And because it comes straight from the creator, it basically says that the creator also sits within the yagya bhav. So he's given you two examples. One, if you're very spiritual, go back to the Vedas. Everything from the Veda comes from the creator. Everything in the Veda talks about yagya. If you don't believe in, if that's not convincing, go look at nature. Go look around you. Everything that is there in this earth comes from the yagya bhav. Yeah, you can continue reading.
Propounding the cycle of creation, the word food connotes all subtle and gross matter which goes to nourish the bodies of living beings. Everyone knows that organisms of the body are nourished and fostered by food. For production of food, rain is necessary. The word prajanya is used here to denote the rainwater, but this word has a wider connotation than the word rain. It is common knowledge that life depends on water, but the water which sustains life also harms life when it assumes malignant forms like floods, etc. The word prajanya connotes that form of rainwater which sustains life. All types of rain, excessive, moderate, or normal, are results of scientific laws. But rainwater which sustains life and productivity of results of yagna. And yagna does not mean ritualistic fire worship only. In wider sense, it includes the performance of prescribed duties with a sense of dedication.
So,
Yagna is
Bhagwanji has taken one element of this nature And he's given such a beautiful example with rain and rainwater. Yes, water is a very essential element to grow food and to sustain life on this planet. But if it's too little, it's not going to have an effect. If it's too much, it's not going to have an effect. It's only the right amount of rainfall that will actually nourish the soil enough. It will give rise to healthy plants and healthy food for us to sustain everything else in this world. He said that right amount is not a coincidence. That right amount is yagya. And for us as well. And last time we were talking about just being nice, being nice, being nice. No, it's not about just being nice to people and being bent over and people take advantage of you. There is that yagya element. Do it for the right purpose which benefits everybody else, and that's that yagya. Don't make it your only way of being.
Too little or too much of niceness, both of them are not good, right? So like in Buddhism they say the middle path. It's the middle path. Anything that is too less or too much is not good in this world. It becomes malignant in some form. Like sweet, if it is taken to 100% sweetness, we know it becomes bitter. Like neem composes of neem leaves are 100% sugar, right? So we know that even seemingly good thing, when taken to an extreme, becomes a negative thing.
Continue.
Yajna itself is based on actions. Every action cannot be said to be yajna, but every yajna is based on one action or other. Those actions which carries sanction of Vedas form the basis of yajna. Vedas themselves comprise mandates of Supreme Creator, and thus the Creator abides in yajna. This sloka thus asserts why it is necessary to perform yajna. Only person attains the supreme state who is content with partaking what remains after various power potentials get their shares.
So
Connection.
again, this one is um, so this is where he has made a very strong statement. He's saying that Lord himself has prescribed yajna through Vedas, and he himself sits in every yajna. It's a very, very powerful statement. It means that when we are performing yajna, we are invoking all of Lord's power in this world. Never consider yourself to be a meek, small person. You have high amount of power. You are as powerful as him if you can align yourself with him, his principles, invoke him in everything that you do. And the value you can create in this world, the outsized impact you can create in this world is humongous. At the same time, if ego comes in the way and you think, oh, I am so powerful and I can do all of these things, immediately that connection gets broken. So humility is very important. You are powerful only as long as he's standing behind you. The power is his. We are only, the only thing we can do is we can make ourselves a medium for that power to flow in this world. So we can be extremely powerful as long as we are his nimit. The word nimit means his medium.
So,
And
so I'll give you an example of how little we control and how and this element of yagya is there in every action of ours, whether we realize it or not. At night, when you get ready for sleep, you'll brush your teeth, you'll maybe take a bath to feel cool and nice and fresh. You'll get your AC temperature correct. Okay, I like it at 24. You'll get your two, three favorite pillows, or if you're me, five favorite pillows. And then you'll get your blanket. You'll get into bed. You'll close your eyes. Then what? Do you fall asleep? No. You can close your eyes and you can lie down and you can quieten your mind, but it's Him who makes you fall asleep. That final act of falling asleep You can never tell yourself, fall asleep, fall asleep, fall asleep, fall asleep. You'll stay awake all night talking to yourself about falling asleep. You can only get yourself to a certain point, and then it's the act of his yagya to help you fall asleep. It's your act of reverence to say, please, Bhagwanji, re energize this body so I can wake up tomorrow and do my duty. But in the delusion that we live in, we think we control everything. Oh, I control when I fall asleep. There is so many times I'm less like, okay, tonight I'm going to have a late night. I'll catch a quick nap in the afternoon. 45 minutes I'll lie down, nothing will happen. Right? But there are other times where it just works. And that's just a very small element, but it's there everywhere. That reverence has to be there in every one of our actions because we don't control it. I don't even fully understand how the chapati I eat becomes energy for me. It's millions of things that are happening, all with the form, with the yagya bhav to help us get there. So it's a fallacy to think we control these things. We can only control food going in my belly. Now, whether that food becomes poison for my system and then I get a stomach ache is not in my control. It can easily happen. Or if I have an allergy to that all of a sudden, I cannot control. Right? So that's where, yeah, it's this action, this thought is very powerful. Every action cannot be said to be yagya, but every yagya is based on one action or the other. It's just about how we change our perception to be able to see it. And any act you're doing, ask, how do I make this a yagya bhav? How do I make this an offering? How do I do this with reverence and gratitude? And I think Tuina had explained last time the qualities of an act for it to be yagya, selfless and benefit to others, and not be attached to the fruits of the action, etc.
Yeah, and that can be done everywhere, right? Like, for example, if you're throwing a party, that act of throwing a party can be a positive impact in your life or it can be a negative impact in your life. So if you had to do it with the yagya bhav, you're throwing a party, you invite people. First of all, the reverence with which you invite people, right? And your idea is that they should come and have a good time. So then it will seep into everything. What is it that they need? The type of food they eat or the food they like, and the activities they like to do. So you will be creating those things as a part of what they would enjoy the most because you're doing this for their enjoyment and not for your enjoyment, right? And when they come, then you are making sure that everyone's having a good time, you are giving into them whatever, and you will end up, you are not going to be sitting in one place. You as a host will be all over the place, making sure that everybody is comfortable, their glasses are filled, they need tea, coffee, whatever they want to have, drinks they want to have, food that they want to eat, right? You're doing it with that yagya bhav, and you are just happy making them happy. And after you have done all of this as a yagya shisht, you, whatever you consume, you will be happy. That happiness that comes from them being happy is your yagya shisht at the end of that party. However, if after the party all we are doing is sitting and gossiping about, oh, what did that person do? What was she wearing? Or what was he doing? Or he dropped the glass there and he spoilt my carpet. And if at the end of the party, if you are in that space of gossip or unhappiness, or the fact that even if you're super tired, right? If you're in that yagya bhav through that party, you will feel happy, calm, peaceful, and you will go to sleep a happy person for that gathering that happened in your life, because there were all these gods that came into your life, they blessed you and they went and you blessed them back, right? Otherwise the same thing can become a completely negative hell of an experience for everyone involved. So even in something like a party, you can create a yagya there, or you can create uh, a vain action where you are throwing a party just to show off or to have your own fun. So that's tamas, right? We'll go to the next one.
No.
Okay.
Next one's long, so we'll stop here.
Yeah, the next one's really nice too.
Excellent.
Can I go do the connection?
You
No,
will read in the
we'll
next
read in the
class.
next class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We'll
Already time.
say the shloka. Okay. Om Sarvesham Swastirbhavatu Sarvesham Shantirbhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukh Bhag Bhavet Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
So on my side, I have to apologize that I've not uploaded a lot of these classes before this. So today I'll make sure that all classes are uploaded and I'll confirm back on the WhatsApp group once done. So sorry about that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuhina.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
I'm
you.
looking forward for my missed class.
Yes, yes. You've been very diligent and patient.
Thank you so much for that. I'll do that today. All of the classes. There are quite a few that I have to upload.
Sorry, where do you upload it? Like, where do I have to go for the upload? Will you share the site also once?
Will do.
So it's
Will
a
do.
Okay.
it's a YouTube channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the link on our group description. So if you click on our group description, you have the Zoom link
Okay.
for every Sunday. Under that will be all the past videos.
Okay.
Okay, so
Thank
you
you.
can always access it. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Naran, Naran.
Narayan, Narayan.
Narayan.